Zebre shock Ulster at the Kingspan. My name is Mark, let's talk rugby. What a fantastic result for Zebre that was, and thoroughly deserved as well. It wasn't like a sneaky win or anything like that. Ulster honestly were lucky to get a bonus point out of this game. We're going to, do a year's thing, talk through the game, and then we will talk about each of the teams afterwards as well. But yeah, you got to start with just mentioning, how amazing this is for Zebre, and really well deserved too. And you can't really say, players missing, because that's an excuse for both sides, as it were. But into the game, so Zebre, they kick it up the line deep into 22 after Ulster offside on a kick, but Ulster managed to steal the line out and they're able to clear it. Zebre then, they're trying to run the ball, keeping hold of it, but there's some stout Ulster defence forcing knock-ons early on. But you can see Zebre, they really are up for this, and they're looking to, getting into those wider channels, and they are finding half gaps and stuff. But just Ulster being able to, to defend for the moment. The Ray then drops a high ball. That allows Ulster to get some go forward. They go through a number of phases with Postlethwaite to the fore, carrying well. Zebre then can see the penalty, but Murphy decides to go for every metre from the kick, and he kicks it dead instead. Zebre then get the nudge in the scrum, and they're able to get a clear, and Ulster are offside as well after a run it, so the penalty helps them even more. But yeah, Zebre completely on top in the scrum, and that was just a kind of a warning there, that they really were dominant. Ulster then win a penalty for side entry in the maul. They kick to the corner. Treadwell claims it. They set up the maul. Stewart then, he decides to go off the back, but Zebre managed to halt their momentum. And it was who was it? They moved the ball then from there, right? And forwards having a go at the line. Wilson goes close. They keep pounding away at that line, but eventually goes forward, and Zebre are able to counter-attack. And, Ulster did this a few times, especially in the first half, where they're just it was like white line fever, right? The line is there. Forwards just one out carry, and there's nobody. There's no Cooney was there, but there's nobody saying what else is available. They're piling in defenders here. Surely there's space somewhere else, but nobody's taking any leadership at all in this team, as far as I can see at the moment. But don't take anything away from the fantastic defense of Zebre as well. On their line for extended period there, didn't go away a penalty either, and they managed to keep them out and force the knock on. From there then, Zebre, they go on a counter-attack, kick it down, and Murphy, I thought, did really well to get back and cover and just, allow Ulster to clear it. Then it's back and forth as both teams were looking to counter, looking for that little bit of space. Eventually it ends with an attacking line into Zebre into 22. Really clever kick in behind, and that forced, I think it was Ward, Zach Ward slid with the ball over the line. He tried to keep it in, but couldn't quite do it. And then from there, from the line out, Zebre looked to move it, but Ulster turn it over and clear. But again, Zebre are the ones who really are showing the attacking intent with ball in hand. Then they have a chance to kick to the corner after a powerful maul. And the drive basically forced Sullivan to come in at the side, because they were just going forward at rate nuts. But this time now it's their turn to kick a penalty dead. Zebre then forced a penalty in the scrum. Ulster under a lot of pressure, and there's hands in the scrum there where Ulster trying to keep the ball in, and then Montemaori puts Zebre in front, and a deserved lead really for them, because again, they're the ones applying a lot of the pressure. Ulster then make a break through Cooney. He feeds Zach Ward, and then they go inside to Sheridan. move breaks down as it goes forward, as he offloads. We then have a TMO check, and Stavil Bravin goes to the bin for the tackle off the ball. BG could have gone instead for deliberately getting into the passing channel. Basically, he just, he put himself there so the ball hit him as Ulster were trying to move it, and they were in behind there as well. Ulster goes to the corner, set up the maul. Stewart goes off the back, and he gets forced into touch by a great defensive tackle by Garcia. I think he had a couple of other people to help him, but geez, he did well there. Ulster then pinned him in there. They moved the ball, and looks like they found a little bit of space out on the left, but Timney then knocks it on, and signs as well that they might unlock the Zebre defense, but you feel like they've got to take some of the chances soon as well. It's they're getting to that point where it looks like they've done the hard work and they've got to the space, and then that's where the errors are happening. And yeah, they're not able to do it. Then it's the 40 men of Zebre there, and last minute and a half, they're the ones attacking the Ulster 22. Krumov breaks off the front of them all, and basically just goes galloping up the pitch, eventually hauled down. Then they go left, where they have numbers. Ulster did well to drift and scramble there as well, because if they had have been able to just put the ball through the hands there and pin that defense, then they might have been in the corner. But Ulster, they prevent them from doing that, and eventually get over the ball for the penalty. Halftime is 3-0, and again, Zebre well worth their lead at the break. Ulster then in the second half, they get some possession. They're holding onto the ball a bit better, but there's no real penetration from them. Very little flow from phase to phase. It's almost like they're starting again every phase. Like, that there's, I don't know what was going on with them, but every time was kind of a little bit of, a delay. Which way are we going? Which pod is going? Which pod are we in? That kind of thing. And there's just no zip to their play at all. And, it made it much easier for Zebre to then defend as well. Eventually, Lowry knocks on, and that's the catalyst then for Zebre to start coming forward. The Ray claims a kick, and they run it back. The Ray involved again. Then Jesse shakes off a weak tackle attempt, and they get into the 22. The ball is spilled, but definitely signs of danger from Zebre again. They're the ones with the cutting edge. Then they pressure the scrum. Ulster don't make much ground from the clearance kick, and it just looked very panicked from them. Zebre then claim the line out. They move it inside before going back out to the tram lines. Garcia just kind of, he obviously saw there was space out there. He runs it kind of halfway across himself. Then he gives the pass to Stavil Bravin, who goes over in the corner. Conversion's missed, 8-0. You really feel like Ulster need to wake up at this stage. But when they did, it was like too late for them. Lacana then goes off the back of a scrum. He's hauled down, but there's a penalty. To go quickly from that, Garcia finds the Ray. He picks a lovely line and over to score, converted for 15-0. And yeah, right now you're thinking first away win on the cards for Zebre. Absolutely, definitely. Because this Ulster team are just not offering anything at all. Ulster then trying to respond, but again, error strewn and not putting any real pressure on Zebre. But then a couple of penalties does allow them to work it to within 5 meters. They have advantage for offside, and you feel like they need it as well, because Murphy, when they go out to the back, Murphy just get absolutely driven back as they were trying to spread the ball. And that was kind of a feature of this as well. Anytime where Ulster decided they're going to spread it, it was slow, and then Zebre were just waiting there as well to hit them. And it could be one of the reasons why Ulster were keeping it in the forwards, but they need to sort out that link between forwards and backs, because it's not really there at all. You've got to look at the half backs for that as well. And you look at the experience there of Cooney and then Doak when he came on as well. Now, I know they got a young 10 there and Murphy, but still. Then from the penalty, they're battering away at the line, and it's very reminiscent of that first half. But this time, Zebre are giving away penalties. Eventually, the pressure does tell, and Barrett gets over, forces his way over under the post. Doak adds the extras for 15-7. Ulster then get a nudge in a scrum after changes in the front row, and you feel like there's a little bit of a glimmer there that they might be able to actually pull off a comeback in this one if they can get that scrum going for them, and if they can actually get some fluidity in their play as well. Ulster though, then they concede a penalty for not rolling away. Monty Mori steps up. Not the best strike from him from the tee. It goes right and wide. But from here then, Zebre have appeared. They're bossing possession and territory right when Ulster looked like they were getting a little bit of momentum. And, I think this is a crucial period as well for Zebre because they delayed Ulster actually coming back at them to the point where Ulster looked very panicked in that last 10 minutes, not knowing what to do. And Zebre almost get in again as well because Paella gets his hands free out wide inside the 22, but his offload goes into touch. But again, just showing any kind of sniff that they're dangerous. Then we have a nice run from Lowry that sparks Ulster. Then he's hit high. There's also another penalty coming to them as well. Doak calls for the tee, not a popular decision with the crowd, and then crowd kind of vindicated as well because his kick just goes way off target, and we just got 6 minutes to go, and it feels like that's the game gone, and Ulster now are chasing a losing bonus point. They do win another penalty. This time they decide they're going to go to the corner, but the clock is ticking at this stage, and they go to one out carries again. It's basically the same script that they've been using the whole game. They work it up to the line. This time though, Barrett does get over for his second try. Doak converts for 15 points to 14. Ulster then win a penalty in the last minute, but it's in their own half. They go up the line into the Zebre half. They claim the line out, set up the maul, and for the first time in the whole match, the maul actually gets some go forward. It's effective. They make good ground. Then they break off that, work it into 22, and it looks like finally in like the last, like not even the last minute of the game, I think we're into the red at this stage, they're showing a little bit of what they needed to do. Should have been doing this like 20 minutes before, but they don't look after the ball at the breakdown, and it's Pitanari, I think, gets over the ball, wins a penalty for Zebre. That's the game, 15 points to 14. First away win for Zebre in, I think they said 36 games or something. Totally well deserved from them. Would have honestly have been a travesty if Ulster had won that game. And I say that as someone, I'm wearing an Ulster jersey, who was cheering for in the game, but there was only one team that deserved to win that game. And luckily, they're the ones that come out with the win in the end as well. We're going to look at the stats and then we'll talk a little bit more about each of the teams. So on attack, 2 tries scored each. Zebre, that kind of 4 minute period where they scored those 2 tries, I think really gave them the belief, to be able to kind of keep Ulster at bay, at the end there. Yes, Ulster had a sniff of a chance to win it, but I still think, overall, when they got those tries, was very important for Zebre, and they almost, pretty much steal it if they had scored that penalty as well. Possession 62-38 for Ulster. Clean breaks 4-6, and defenders beaten 29-27. So again, Ulster with less clean breaks, a lot more possession, and again it shows you where the cutting edge was in terms of these two teams. Then offload 7 for Ulster, 14 for Zebre. Again, Zebre, the more ambitious team with ball in hand. Onto defence then, territory, 62% to 38 as well. So Ulster, plenty of the ball in the right areas of the field, but couldn't do anything with it really. And then you look at the number of tackles, 98 for Ulster and almost double 190 for Zebre. Missed tackles 27 to 29. Ulster down at 68%. Like that is absolutely dire. We've seen poor defensive efforts like, in the low 70s and stuff from teams. And we've seen like, the likes of like aggressive defenses like Leinster will be in kind of, maybe the mid to high 70s, ticking into the low 80s, but with a decent scramble behind it. But like 68% is just, it's unacceptable, honestly, from any team. Yes, like, they made, only half the amount of tackles, but at the same time, then you'd expect them to, make sure you make those tackles. 82% for Zebre, much better from them. Turnovers 1 then, 5 for Ulster and 6 for Zebre. On to kicking then. Kicks retained, 1 for Ulster, 4 for Zebre. As I said, Zebre were the smarter kickers of the two teams, and also the chase and the competition in the air. You can see that they're the ones that were winning, those battles in the air as well. Penalties conceded then, 11 for Ulster, 12 for Zebre. Zebre tended to be giving away their penalties kind of in bursts, but never really got a serious one from the referee. And again, like Ulster weren't applying enough pressure, I feel like, to actually, for them to get another warning, potentially for a yellow card, especially when you think, when they scored the first try, that was when Zebre gave away a couple of penalties near the line, but Ulster got over, and I think that was the reward, so there was no warning given there. On to then, individual players. So, successful carries, Ben Carson with 8. Himself and Postlethwaite looked decent in the Ulster midfield, but they look kind of, they look like, similar to, there was a couple, who was it again? Like the Munster, earlier on in the season, the Munster centres, right? Look very similar to these two guys in that they individually they look good, but there wasn't enough linking up, and there wasn't enough kind of, exploiting the good carries that they did. Himself and Postlethwaite look like decent players, but as a unit, they haven't kind of knitted yet, I think, and the rest of the team haven't quite worked out how to kind of support them as well when they make breaks or half breaks. Then Garcia with 12 carries, just absolutely everywhere for Zebre. For me, he was the man of the match. I don't know who the official man of the match was, but for me, he was definitely the guy. Clean breaks then, Zach Ward with 2, and then Stavil Bravin with 2 as well for Zebre. I think one of them was his try there as well. Ward, like, again, looks like a decent player out on the wing, but it's all kind of, again, isolated stuff and not really joined up from Ulster. The Friends is beaten then 9 from Ward and 6 from Garcia. So, like, he's beaten 9 players, but, they're getting beaten, but at the same time, they're not really, like, you saw they only had 4 clean breaks in the whole game, like, so they're not, something's very wrong, I think, with their attack in terms of support lines and stuff like that. And then, getting players there, when they do make those kind of half breaks as well. Meters made then, Zach Ward with 84 and DeRay with 54. DeRay, again, excellent game from him. And then offloads, 1 from Mike Lowry, and Garcia, excellent again, 3 from him. On to defence then, McCann with 11 tackles, Stavil Bravin with 20. That guy, again, like, he's 10 minutes in the bin, he gets himself a try, he's making 20 tackles, like, and himself and Garcia definitely the standouts in the game. Then turnovers 1, Nick Timley with 1, and Canali with 2 for Zebre. Timley, another player who, people talk about in terms of Ireland, etc. But it's nice like this. You look at it, and you think, well, like, what exactly was he doing in terms of not just his own game? Because when, like, he's kind of a senior, he definitely is a senior figure in this Ulster team now, because they've gone with a lot of youth, right? But he can't just focus on his own game. He needs to be talking a bit more bringing on the rest of the pack, etc. And we didn't really see that. There was a real lack of leadership, I think, for Ulster in this game. But yeah, let's talk a bit more about the teams themselves. So Ulster, as I said, looked blunt in attack, scrum very poor. Line out was kind of okay. Kicking was rushed. Definitely Zebre were dictating in that area. Too many handling errors. Maul was ineffective. No kind of heads up rugby either. Looking, where is the space and stuff like that. And yeah, like as I said, Maul ineffective apart from the very last one. Then white line fever, like on a couple of occasions, especially during the yellow card period. Then team lacks real leaders on the field as well. Like you've got players there with experience, but they're not leading the team. Too often then, when they're faced with adversity, not just in this game, but we saw it through most of the Champions Cup. We've seen it early on this season as well in the URC. It goes to individual players doing the odd good thing and people kind of thinking, it's almost like, well, I'll do my part well. And, therefore, I shouldn't get the blame, if you like. Instead of having, some kind of cohesion, some collective effort from the team as well. Players are just kind of head down. I'm trying to do my bit well, which is nice in a team. You want everybody to be doing their job well, but also there needs to be voices there saying, okay, whatever happens to be, whether it's, okay, if we make a break, we need to be supporting there, or we need to be getting to the breakdown a bit faster, getting that ball clear quicker. We need to be setting up, our pods a bit faster so that whoever's at 9, whether it's Cooney or Doak, has the options there ready to go, doesn't have to scan and think about it. And players giving calls as well, whether if there's space in behind for a dink over, wherever it is, there's nothing of it, happening for this team at the moment. As I said, they didn't look after the ball to break down, and that cost them right at the end for that penalty. It cost them in other moments as well. Lack physicality in defence as well, falling off tackles, going backwards in the tackle as well, and kind of, because they're going backwards, they're falling, and then they're in the way of their own players trying to get over the ball, and it's making things easier for Zebre, and yeah, just so many things wrong with him tonight. That's kind of a culmination that's been happening, over again Champions Cup and through the rest of the season as well. But I feel like one thing out of this is it's got to be a learning experience now, not just for the players, for the coaches as well, to look at that, and whether it's looking at the squad and kind of identifying maybe for next season where they need to recruit to kind of to bring in players that can bring on the young guys and stuff like that. Like I know, like they tried to bring in big names before, like hasn't worked out for them. The likes of Vermeulen or Kitsoff, like kind of having a lot of injuries and stuff like that. But they're the kind of players that they need to kind of bring in. I think if you look at kind of Leinster now, Barrett's come in, and obviously he's an excellent player, but also you saw him there, last night in with a lot of youngsters in the back line, and they're all going to learn from him. You look at the Ulster team, and you see a lot of kind of potential talent there with youngsters, whether it's in the backs or in the forwards, but you're not seeing anyone there who is going to bring those guys on, kind of take them under their wing and that kind of stuff. It feels like even the frontline Ulster players are kind of still learning on the job as well. I know everybody has to learn all the time, but it doesn't feel like there's that kind of setup at the moment in Ulster where you've got kind of senior players there who can take that role on and bring those players through. Now, if they get a bit of confidence and they get a few wins, maybe that starts coming to them. But it's really when things aren't going well that you see the makeup and the metal of your senior players as well. So for me, if I was Richie Murphy there at Ulster, that's what I'd be thinking is, who can we get in that's going to help bring this youth together, kind of gel the team together. So on to Zebre then. Absolutely magnificent from them. Dominant in the scrum, held their own in the line out, looked to move the ball when it was on, kicked intelligently when it wasn't. Real energy in the chase as well, turning good kicks into superb ones, and not really giving up on anything, and really putting that pressure on Ulster. Defended really well, especially during the yellow card period in the first half. Competitive at the breakdown, looked a more dangerous team with ball in hand. DeRay, Garcia, Gessi, Paella, Krumov, Biji, all excellent. Stabin Bravin as well. Could name the whole team, and then Buon Figlo and Hassa, just had the Ulster scrum on toast as well, with BG there in the front row too. Really happy for them. As anyone who's watched the channel for a while, when I've talked about Zebre, I've talked about the fact that you can see that they're making progress. This hasn't just come out of thin air. It's like, yes, it's a shock result in terms of, nobody really expected it to happen now. But it's something that's been coming. They talked about them last year where they were getting close to teams. They weren't quite getting their wins at home, but they then, the last two seasons, they recruited very smartly the players that they brought in. I think we saw the result of that tonight as well. Players away with Italy, but they still, have a good cohesive team there that were able to easily be the better team over the 80 minutes there. And, it's that planning that they've done over the last 2 years, the recruiting, making sure that they're progressing in each part of the game as well, being more competitive at home, starting to become competitive away. They beat Munster early on in the year to get lots of teams, tough games as well, over in Parma, including, Leinster in the last few seasons as well. And, I've heard talk of potentially Zebre getting canned as well, which to me is absolutely crazy, because that kind of decision, if a team isn't going anywhere, so take comparison, right? Themselves and the Dragons are kind of, towards the end of the league, and it's been there for the last few years, right? But Zebre, you can actually see there's progress going on. You can see where the players are coming through, the players they've recruited, the improvements that they've made, in terms of attacking intent, being more astute in terms of their tactical play, with kicking and stuff like that. Set pieces improved as well, and compare that then to the Dragons. And you don't see that with the Dragons at all. That the Dragons aren't making the same steps as them. Yes, they generally finish, fairly close in the league. But you've got one team who you could see potentially, like in Zebre, emulating Benetton Treviso and rising up through the ranks. Whereas the Dragons, you don't see that. Now it doesn't mean that I'm not saying, well, the Dragons should get canned, because again, there's calls for that too. And I don't agree with that either, because I feel like, the Dragons, if they look at, a team like Zebre, the likes of Zebre, or even like a Connacht or whoever it may be, right, as a model for how do you do it on a budget, right? And, there is the possibility for them to do the same thing as well, right? They're not kind of destined to be, basement dwellers all the time. I feel like you get the right team in there in terms of coaches, and you get it doesn't take a whole heap of players to come in, right? You recruit well, one or two decent players, season on season, and eventually you build a squad that, maybe not going to be like, lifting trophies or whatever, but is more competitive. That, that's what you should be aiming for, is when we recruit for next year, the players that we bring in, we want to make sure that we're more competitive than we were last year. And then just build on that year on year, and developing parts of your game and stuff like that. And Zebre have done it, and there's no reason why the Dragons can't do it either. But this is Zebre's night. Again, I can't believe that there's talk of them getting canned. To me, that's absolutely ridiculous when they're finally showing, that they can produce at this level as well. But I'm just going to leave it by saying, fantastic win for them, and I'm really, really happy for them as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments.